the desire to be missional with your business, right? So using your business to advance the kingdom of God, using it for more than, as you pointed out, just, financial upside, having eyes to see your business as having eyes to see your business as a tool that can be used in the battle for souls.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Vertical Business Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to leverage your business for more than just financial upside, which should be a given, but also how to use your business as an outpost for the battle in good versus evil.
That's right, the invisible battle.
Which should be exciting. So kick it off by asking, what is a Kingdom Outpost? What does that even mean?
Yeah. Well, it's... I don't know if it's a Sparrow-generated term or not, but I feel like we've been throwing it around for years. And, for us, a Kingdom Outpost is exactly what it says but kingdom being obviously God's kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, and being an outpost being I think of like a military outpost, right? Like Civil War or the Alamo, something like that. You're like this remote fort or outpost stationed strategically, close to enemy lines, out in the battle, out in the fray. And for us, specifically, a Kingdom Outpost is that coupled with the desire to be missional with your business, right? So using your business to advance the kingdom of God, using it for more than, as you pointed out, just, financial upside, having eyes to see your business as having eyes to see your business as a tool that can be used in the battle for souls. And it isn't always intuitive to do that, because you're like, I'm trying to sell my products, I'm trying to keep the lights on, and I'm kind of just doing business. But you do spend a lot of time there, right? Like 8, 10, 12, 15, 16 hours a day. So how do you make that a Kingdom Outpost where you're actually, during all those hours, making an impact for the kingdom and spending that time in a way that's redeeming and missional?
Well, as you said, I think it is definitely easy, even if you have the desire to use your business for more than just financial upside. It's really easy to fall into the day-to-day and get distracted, potentially, if that is something that is already a goal of yours or has been on your mind. Or if it's not already been, it's easy to miss. And that's because business is already war. So if you're trying to fight an invisible war,
you got a physical war in front of you, and you got an invisible war to think about.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah.
So what are some practical ways for a business owner to go about using his or her business to fight this battle?
To be a Kingdom Outpost.
Things that are practical. So if you're in the throes of business and it is daunting already, and you're potentially distracted, I'll put in quotations, by day-to-day business, when you have a bigger goal for your company to make that kind of impact, what are ways that business owners can maybe put that on autopilot? If I can put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is just to acknowledge that it's not like building a brand where, you're going to spend hours and hours and hours and hours, agonizing over this brand and spending tens of thousands of dollars on creating, logos and colors and all this stuff. Part of it should be intuitive and built into the character of you as the owner, right? So just want to put that out there. Like, don't feel like you have to boil the ocean here to get started. We like to think of the Kingdom Outpost kind of in two functions. The first function of being, or the first way of living out your Kingdom Outpost values, is through really internal culture. Okay. The second one is what we call external generosity, which obviously at Sparrow and on the Vertical Business Podcast, we talk about at length, being generous with your business. But again, that first component is essentially a culture, a philosophy, an ethos of what is it like inside your company. Because your company, the goal is to reflect the kingdom of God. The kingdom is good. The kingdom is full of blessing. The kingdom has lots and lots of qualities and attributes that draw us as human beings, right? And so aligning your business to be like the kingdom is going to be a first big step. Well, what does that look like?
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
go ahead.
What does that look? What does that look like in your mind? Because it's probably different business to business. But what are some of the things you've done?
Yeah, I think when I think of kingdom, I think of generosity, of course, and this type of generosity. That's why we differentiate external generosity with maybe generosity internally, and that is as the owner, as the CEO, as the president, whatever your role is in this company, as the boss, setting a tone of generosity for your people. And that is, we all know what it's like working with a business owner who you just kind of know they're stingy. And it's like their staff knows it. Maybe even their customers know it. Always pinching onto every dime, and raises come slow and infrequent. And they just kind of have that mentality, you know, and you just sort of know, like, this guy's, you know, it's just, as a business owner, he runs tight. And so I think just a culture of generosity is important. Helping your staff. Maybe one of their car breaks down, you fix it for them. You know, you hear someone can't make their rent, or someone is sick, you're sending flowers for, you know, when you know something's going on, and just having that kind of generous attitude. Second would be like supporting the family unit. And that's obviously one of Sparrow's big values, is we support the family unit. Well, what does that look like? It means exactly that. If the family unit, if you have opportunities to support the nuclear family, we like to do that. If, you know, making sure husbands and wives have time together, making sure your staff has time with their kids, you're not working them to death on weekends, you're supportive of the family unit. There's a myriad of ways, you know, lots of things I could say, but some of it comes down to your philosophy of what you feel like how the kingdom hits you in good and positive ways, and how you want to emulate that. I mean, your wife could, or your significant other, or you could yourself. My wife Becky did this for a few years, and we called it Muffin Mondays. In fact, we're gonna do an episode on that, right?
With Becky?
Yeah, with Becky. And the Muffin Mondays, where Becky would bring in muffins or treats or pastries on Monday morning, and the staff loved it. It was like they looked forward to it. It was like this simple little gesture. They felt loved. They felt taken care of. And she would do that kind of thing regularly. Sometimes it was breakfast burritos. Yep. And so
I can speak to the impact of that, because I worked at Legwork, and there was definitely, it felt different to myself, but as well as everybody else who worked at Legwork. I wasn't just receiving specific attention because I'm your guys' son. I heard it, most of the employees that worked around me while I was at Legwork, and this also has bled over into my current company, Vet Hero. My employees just having Becky around, and Becky rubbing off on my wife Jamie, and having Jamie do some of those same types of things. I heard at Legwork, and I hear all the time at Vet Hero, oh, this company just feels different.
Yeah.
And so those kind of things, totally, they may seem small,
right?
But it's amazing how that much that means to your employees.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I just want to make the point, like, the goal is so that people will stop and ask questions. Mm-hmm. The goal is that you operate differently, because the goal is, you want to stitch your family life, you know, your spiritual life, your church life, all of that it's intuitive as a Christian to live that way. But so often we go to work, and for whatever reason, especially as a business owner, you're so consumed with running your company that your spiritual switch kind of can flip off. Your missional switch can kind of flip off. You think, like, or turn off. And, you know, and that's really not necessary. Your business is actually a great vehicle. It's a great opportunity to reach people. You're around however many people, you got customers, vendors, employees. If you're embodying the kingdom, you're embodying this attractive nature of Jesus, people are going to see you differently, and there's a really good chance that you're going to spawn gospel conversations.
So I agree. And you just brought up what I had said at the beginning of the podcast, which is linked to how I have felt at Vet Hero. Even when you have the goal of being a Kingdom Outpost, because being a business owner can be so consuming, and when you are at work, and even when you're not at work, but specifically when you're at the office, it can take up all your thoughts and beyond your limit of thinking, frankly, where you just feel like you're consumed with the day and with initiatives and with problems. So are there some things that you have learned over the years, things that you, as I put it at the beginning once again, is there anything you've implemented that you felt like helped sort of put that on autopilot? Or are there things that you've made rituals that you actively are engaging in? So it's not autopilot, it's you actively doing something, but is there a way that you've implemented those active things that have allowed you to do them consistently? Where have you seen you found success with keeping this kind of thing consistent while also battling against the regular war of business?
Yeah. Well, I think for sure, and this one kind of tips over to the external generosity piece, that is the giving outside of your company. So I'll touch on internal stuff here in a second. But as far as thinking about autopilot and being a Kingdom Outpost, making an impact for the kingdom, the second attribute is external generosity. And that is definitely easy to put on autopilot. It's definitely easy to pick.
You literally can.
You literally can. Yeah. I mean, finding something you care about, finding a missional effort, finding a ministry, or hopefully you're given to your church, your local church that you're a member of or attending, and giving to that regularly, and using your business resources, using the cash inside your company to fund externally the mission. So part of it, part of the Kingdom Outpost is you are a depot of resources out on the front lines, and you can send resources out from your Kingdom Outpost out to literally the very front lines, and keep people working, keep churches going. So generosity is one that you can definitely get on autopilot, and you just like give out of your company. Secondly, I mentioned Muffin Mondays. That was fun. We were big on Christmas shoebox program, which was always really fun, and there was a heart and an ethos behind that of generosity and giving and caring for kids who weren't going to have a Christmas. The staff loved it. We pulled them into that. And that was kind of a annual ritual type thing that we would do, and it would expose the heart of the ownership of owners and the CEOs, because you get to talk through it. Hey, everybody, we're going to do this year for these kids, and we love kids, and I mean, you just get to it
gives you the opportunity, as you said, to facilitate situations where people are going to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is this company so generous? Why are they sending these shoebox programs over to wherever and taking care of kids who aren't going to have a Christmas? And it can spawn a lot of good conversations. So, I mean, those are three things that we would do. There's all kinds of things that you could set up as patterns. Internal generosity can look even just like how you care for your staff. Do you, are you doting on them? Are you giving them kudos? You're bringing in gift cards and coffee for them every now and then when the sales team hits their goal, or your admin team, gets the month closed out right on time. You can set this tone, and it's really easy to get away from this. You can get into autopilot in a bad way, where you're just expecting everybody to do their job. You can become, you get stressed out and a little calloused and everything. But bringing that kingdom mindset, it just looks different, and there's a whole bunch of things you can do internally to just let them know that you're a different business.
Yeah. Well, so just one more thing, because I was probing a little bit, and if you know Jeff, you know that he is not going to brag on himself. But one of the other things that I've seen in your businesses, being around them and also working for them, is your character and the way you carry yourself personally has a huge impact. And we've touched on this a lot, that culture is top down, and
Yes.
regardless, your company is going to end up like you, whether you like that or not.
Yeah.
And if your company is different, that's something you should be proud of, because, well, not only can you be proud of the fact that it's a Kingdom Outpost, but secondarily that is probably reflecting you in some capacity or completely. So your companies, I think, have all benefited in huge ways culturally, because you are visible to your staff, and who you are as a man is continually influencing what's accepted in the business, what the culture is like in general. And so that's something that I've seen you do, that I've tried to emulate at Vet Hero, and I feel like is one of the most potent ways to, and also one of the ways to simplify, because like I said, when you're feeling consumed with business and one of your other goals outside of the finances is to be a Kingdom Outpost, what comes to my mind is, oh man, something else on the checklist. And then if I'm going to execute on it, what are the things that I need to actively be doing, and how do I gauge that I'm doing a quote unquote good job?
Yeah.
And I think one of the ways to help simplify that process is to understand that one of the most potent things you can do is to be yourself, to bring your faith to work, and to be a leader that's worthy of respect.
Yeah, that's right. That's really good. And I think that's, you're going to set the tone, period. Like if you're the boss, you're the CEO, people are always watching. And one of the, to use your term, the most potent ways to be a Kingdom Outpost is just to bring that character as a leader, bringing that character, as a believer, as a follower of Christ, bringing that to work and unabashedly, displaying that character. My staff knows exactly where we stand on integrity, servant-hearted, service for our people. They know we value family. They know we're generous, and those are just attributes that you live out, right, as being a Christian. And I think, to your point, your character, your leadership, how you operate inside the company will disperse and get down into the cracks. Your DNA will replicate through the company. So how you carry yourself, the decisions you make, they matter on the quality and the efficacy of your Kingdom Outpost. It matters who you are, because your company will ultimately behave like you, and they will pick up your values.
I also feel like I've noticed that it seems, and I'm interested in your opinion on this, but it seems like it's pretty important who you hire or who you're willing to bring onto the team.
Yeah.
Are you typically pretty protective of the type of person you'll bring onto the team?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, depends on company size. You get to a certain size company, and it does get hard to control exactly every hire, but you can certainly work with your HR director, and she knows your heart, she knows your character, she knows what you're about, or he, and they will emulate even in their hiring. They'll know, hey, I think this is what Caleb's gonna like, this type of person. So yeah, absolutely, you can absolutely control, and I think it's good to control culture through the people you're hiring. Like we have had, at Legwork early, we had a lot of believers actually, which was kind of cool. And it really did help set the tone of the company. There was kind of a trajectory there, if you will, of faith, and being a kingdom-based company was easy to make that transition, because we just ended up with a lot of believers.
Yeah.
So
That's lucky.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then the second area where you're looking to implement a ritual or a process
Yeah.
that contributes to being a Kingdom Outpost, you mentioned, is external
Yep.
giving.
Yeah.
We touch on that often at Sparrow and in the Vertical Business podcast. But do you have any other nuggets about how that allows you to be a Kingdom Outpost?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it just comes back to the mindset, right? If you're viewing your company as an extension of your faith, if you're viewing your company as an extension of the mission, then you're going to have a certain culture, you're going to have character, you're going to have values, you're going to make people ask questions about why you do business the way you do. Secondly, you're going to be generous. Jesus was the most generous man to ever walk on the planet. He is the most generous Savior there is. He's the only Savior there is. And generosity is just an extension of your faith. Giving out of your business is a beautiful thing. And if you want to know more about the why behind that, we've got other podcasts on that. But we think being generous in your community is a great way to make people ask why. That make people ask, why is this business different? We think it's great to fund mission. Definitely great to give to your church, parachurch ministries. We did water filtration system at Legwork. We did water filtration systems in Guatemala for a while and funded that. And you're just impacting lives. You're impacting lives, and you're advancing the kingdom. You're spreading the message, the good news. And so generosity, I think, is just frankly one of the easier things to do. Like, I mean, obviously, writing a check, if you have the right mindset, it's not that hard, and you can make a big impact. So it's really important. And I think here's the other thing. The culture inside your company is actually enhanced and enriched by your staff watching your external generosity. So what you do externally actually affects internal culture, because you can, if you feel like you want to or should, your staff can be involved in what you're giving externally.
So how would you make that visible to your staff or involve them?
Yeah. You could, we did like a thermometer chart kind of thing at one point on how many water filtration systems were given away. I mean, there's a bunch of ways you can share that. If you dare, you could open up where and what efforts you want to get behind your staff. Now,
that's kind of what I'm curious about. Are you careful with that?
Yeah, you do. I mean, obviously, if you've got a bunch of non-believers, they might want to give to initiatives that you're not going to want to give to. And
if you open it up to them to decide where you're giving,
right?
Yeah,
and then that can start a real battle, and frankly, it can start some hard feelings, because then they're like, "Oh, I know we are giving, but we're giving to all, only Christian resources, and this is not inclusive, or whatever."
Right.
So you do want to be careful with your staff. If you got a small, tight-knit staff, you feel like you can share that with. But, we used to just like to tell people, we would just tell people that we are giving to needs outside of our business, and we like to be generous, and we are writing checks. And we would just sometimes keep it, that was at Legwork when it got bigger. And we would generalize the fact that, hey, we love being generous. You guys are contributing to our ability to be generous. We're helping people outside of our business. We're thinking outside of ourselves, and just making sure they know that is a part of what we do.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's cool. And related to specifically being a needle mover, with the goal of being a Kingdom Outpost, when there's an invisible battle going on, which there is, oftentimes I think the good side is outgunned. We've also sort of talked about this in a previous podcast about why you should give out of your business and how under-resourced the church is. But in the battle of good versus evil, man, the bad side of that equation is seemingly much bigger, with a lot more money, with a lot more influence, with a bigger audience. And so giving cash and like financials just in general are like ammo
Yeah,
in the battle
that's right.
in a big way.
Yep.
Wherever you're pointing your dollars is
It's meaningful.
that's a good way to sum it up. It's super meaningful.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, yeah.
I mean, there is.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a battle going on out there. There is good versus evil. There is an invisible battle, and your business is not immune. You don't get to just go to work and like check out of that, right? I mean, obviously, I don't think anybody thinks that, but like you are always in this invisible battle. It is always souls on the line. It's always good versus evil, and what you do with your company, which is where you spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it matters. I mean, it matters how you do business. Why not use your business as a Kingdom Outpost? Because you can make an impact on the mission. You can make an impact on spreading the good news. We have had multiple people get saved inside of our companies. And that's because relationship was built, and then relationship that is built inside the company can happen outside of the company. We've had people come to, it was like a Financial Peace University thing that Becky and I held. And I mean, we've had people get saved that way, but it started with them asking questions. So it does matter. There is a war out there, and you might as well use your business as a Kingdom Outpost because God's given it to you as a blessing and as a resource that can be used for that.
One last question. You just said that you were inviting employees outside of work to church and to like Financial Peace University. Do you need to be careful of drawing a line when being a Kingdom Outpost, creating relationships with employees? I also think my mind immediately goes to separating you as the boss from the employees at some level. On a relationship level, they need to understand that you're in charge and that you guys aren't just best buddies.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice on how to navigate the relationship side of being a Kingdom Outpost with your employees?
Yep. Yes, absolutely. You and I have talked about this. Like, we're not looking to be, like overtly, just that guy that is just impressed, leaving a Bible on everybody's desk or something, like every morning we're giving them, devotionals for Christmas. It's like, maybe there's companies where that works. You have the right makeup of people, but in general, the goal of the culture piece internally is to open a door that they can walk through. That's the goal. It's to create an ethos. It's to create a culture where they are going to ask and they're going to now, absolutely. Do they know you're a believer? 100%. And you find ways to, you can express your faith in quick ways, to where they know you're a believer. And then you build your company in such a way and have such a culture that you open a door and you let them walk through the door versus just, pounding them over the head with it. Because I don't think that's appropriate.
Ask the question.
Yeah, you're going to make people uncomfortable. If they feel like they have to convert to your religion to work there, that's not good. That's a problem, and that's going to create a really weird culture. And frankly, it's not. I don't think that's a professional way of going about it. But getting them to a place, for instance, the person that got saved by coming to our Financial Peace University class, they asked, and it was like they knew how we lived. They knew, what our life was about, and they asked and wanted help, and then they came and so the door was open and they asked questions.
Okay. So you think it's fine to invite people in?
I think if they're the ones to initiate,
mm-hmm.
You can certainly find ways to nuance, hey, there's a Financial Peace University thing, just loosely. But I think having them ask, having them be the ones to initiate based on what they see in your life is probably, and again, it takes discernment. I mean, there might be conversations where you might say, hey, I can see you're hurting, and they may not have necessarily initiated it. And if the conversation rolls on, you've engaged that conversation, and eventually you might share your faith. But it does take discernment, and don't be that guy that's beating people over the head with it or pressure. Or you're gonna run into problems if you're just forcing it down their throat, and they feel like you're just constantly trying to convert them to your religion and in your business. And it needs to be a sweetness. It needs to be a flavor to it that's attractive, that makes them want to come and ask, not something you're shoving down their throat.
Great. Well, do we have blog posts about this on the website?
Yes, it's a 2-part actually.
Oh, yeah, this is the twofer. Okay.
Yeah, the
So there's a
twofer.
lot of stuff on this topic.
Yeah.
So if you guys are interested in more on this topic, you guys can visit the Sparrow website at gosparrow.com and check out the 2-part blog post on this one. You get a little extra, and you can join the newsletter as well. So you can, if you have questions on this topic or other topics, you can ask them there, and you can get more consistent updates from Jeff and I. And other than that, we thank you for watching the episode, and we'll see you next time. Hey everybody, thanks for your interest in the Vertical Business Podcast. If you like what you heard today, or you're just interested in all things business, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on bell notifications so you know when we're posting. We're typically posting 2 times a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, but you never know when we might not drop a short or something impromptu. And in addition to on YouTube here, you can also follow us or find us on Spotify as well as Apple Music, where we post our episodes as well. And then lastly, if you want to engage with us outside of the podcast, you can find us on our website at gosparrow.com. That is where you can subscribe to our newsletter and get access to our other content outside of the Vertical Business Podcast. So we're looking forward to seeing you there.